Toucam and her baby Zoe greet their friends warmly, wishing everyone a happy and peaceful day. They express gratitude for the continuous love and support from their audience, inviting everyone to stay until the end of the video for some special moments. The morning weather is mild and cool where Toucam lives, signaling the sun will soon rise. Taking advantage of this fresh start, she decides to head out early to see if there is anything to harvest for selling. She sits down with her baby, encouraging Zoe to play and wait patiently for her mother. Today's plan involves Toucam and her mother going to harvest guava. The guavas they pick have light greenish-yellow peels with a gentle roughness. The fruit is just the right firmness in hand, neither too soft nor too hard, perfect for eating. The guava fruits are round and green, speckled with tiny freckles on the skin. Taking a bite reveals a mild, slightly sweet and refreshing aroma. The inside of the fruit is milky white and crispy juicy, satisfying the palate. After the harvest, they prepare to head home with their fresh guavas. During this time, they inspect the food safety standards at local stalls. The system for food safety and hygiene is impressively organized. Fruits are well preserved, often kept in refrigerators during the dry season to prevent spoilage, maintaining cleanliness and freshness. The guavas are even stamped with inspection marks, assuring food safety compliance. From checking fresh produce to visiting stores where vendors daily procure fruits without refrigeration, food safety remains consistently upheld. The inspection extends to shops in local markets, where licenses and business documents for clothing vendors are scrutinized. All goods sold have proper tags and licenses, confirming lawful operation. The vendors adhere strictly to regulations, and the prices remain reasonable, which encourages consumption. Clothes sold are verified to be of good quality, meeting state compliance standards with thorough documentation. The environment reflects a community committed to honesty and regulatory adherence. Despite the community's orderliness, concern grows about Toucam's current situation. Several people have not seen her recently, which raises worries about her well-being, especially since she has her baby with her. Questions surface about whether Toucam can adequately care for her child, stirring anxiety among neighbors and friends. Attempts to ask around do not yield information about her whereabouts, intensifying the concern. The story hints at deeper challenges Toucam may be facing in her life. The narrative then shifts to household tension and community struggles. Discussions reveal dense grass and trees around their home needing attention. One person feels overwhelmed by housework and caregiving duties, expressing exhaustion from constant demands to help others despite illness. Frustration surfaces over the perceived lack of support from family members. Arguments erupt centered on who does the work, who helps whom, and the fairness of distributing labor and responsibilities. The strain on family relationships becomes palpable, showing the difficulties inherent in rural or close-knit communal living. The story further unfolds around interpersonal conflicts marked by accusations of neglect and resentment. Emotional confrontations escalate with threats and fears of physical violence. Attempts at reconciliation and dialogue get interrupted by anger and distrust. Themes emerge of jealousy, suspicion, and betrayal as characters express anger over perceived infidelity and disrespect. The severity of these domestic disputes exposes the fragile state of family dynamics and the way external pressures exacerbate internal conflicts. Simultaneously, the community dynamics complicate with new tensions involving an outsider or newcomer. This individual is seen as a source of discord, allegedly seducing a married man and stirring jealousy and anger among others. Plans to teach her a lesson and silence the issue reveal underlying social control mechanisms and how communal vigilance operates in smaller communities. Secrecy and fear about repercussions shape the interactions, painting a vivid picture of social tensions that intertwine with personal lives. Amidst threats and efforts to confront these tensions, an episode of violence or harassment occurs where the newcomer is chased and attacked by men. A kind bystander intervenes just in time to prevent further harm and assures safety. The newcomer expresses confusion and fear about the attack, indicating no known enemies or reasons behind the assault. She wonders if the assault was robbery-related, but it seems more malicious than acquisitive. Concerned for her safety, the bystander plans to report the incident to authorities and advises caution moving forward. The newcomer receives care and comfort with offers of water and rest. She shares her worry and confusion about being targeted without clear cause. An atmosphere of apprehension clouds everyday movements, reflecting broader dangers lurking in the community that affect vulnerable individuals. The story captures the complexities of rural life, where safety is precarious and social networks both support and threaten individuals. This first part of the story sets an evocative stage of rural life's joys and struggles, interweaving themes of care, hardship, social order, conflict, and resilience. It portrays a community tightly bound, yet fraught with tensions both visible and hidden beneath daily interactions. The characters navigate between hope and hardship, safety and peril, together and yet alone in their journeys. The narrative invites deeper reflection on the human conditions lived through in this particular setting. The story of Tieu Nu and her baby Zoe unfolds not only as a simple rural narrative, but as a profound exploration of human endurance, cultural complexity, and social dynamics in a small community. The initial scenes present an affectionate, serene image of daily life. The gentle morning, harvesting guava, and tender interactions between mother and child. This depiction immediately connects viewers to the slow, rhythmic pulse of rural existence, where the cycles of nature and family sustain one another. The guava harvest is rich in symbolism. The fruit's detailed description, the light greenish hue, delicate freckles, crisp, juicy interior, reflects a deep sensory connection with the land and its produce. This connection underscores traditional values of self-sufficiency and harmonious coexistence with nature. It also highlights the laborious effort and careful attention involved in simple acts like harvesting, selling, and preserving food. The care shown in inspecting the markets, refrigerators, and safety standards reveals a community that cares about quality and trustworthiness in its commerce. Food here is not just sustenance, but a social contract bound by responsibility and mutual respect. Contrasting with this pastoral calm are the tensions subtly weaving through the characters' lives. The absence of Tieu Nu in the community's view and the uncertainty over her ability to care for her child introduces a shadow of vulnerability. It gestures toward the precariousness that can accompany lives lived at the margins, economic, social, and emotional. The inquiries, "Have you seen Tieu Nu?" are not mere curiosities. They are urgent probes into safety and survival. It reflects a collective anxiety that grows from the uncertainty of not knowing where a neighbor is or how they are faring, especially a mother with a child. The family disputes revealed later deepen the emotional texture of the story. They bring into relief conflicting expectations within a household shaped by hardship. A member grapples with exhaustion from endless work, both domestic and communal, and feels misunderstood or unsupported. The nagging complaints show that love and duty are tangled with frustration, unmet needs, and miscommunication. The repeated cycles of argument and reconciliation evoke the broader human struggle to balance individuality and community obligations. We witness how fatigue, both physical and emotional, erodes patience and stokes resentment, turning daily life into a battleground for recognition and care. Physical aggression and accusations escalate these tensions, showing how fragile relationships can become under pressure. The repeated references to hitting and threatening with chairs are stark reminders of the destructive potential of unresolved conflicts. They expose not only the immediate violence, but also the corrosive effects of jealousy, mistrust, and perceived betrayal. The story refuses to shy away from the harsher realities that often underpin domestic life, especially where social and economic stresses intersect. The subplot involving a newcomer accused of seducing a married man introduces a complex social dynamic. It reveals mechanisms of social control typical in small or traditional communities, where outsiders can become scapegoats for internal disputes. The desire to teach her a lesson indicates a community policing its boundaries, but also enacts cautionary tales about gender, power, and reputation. Secrecy surrounding this intervention reflects fears of scandal and repercussions, suggesting that appearances and social harmony are fiercely protected, sometimes at great personal cost. The incident where men chase and threaten the newcomer is a brutal moment, illustrating the intersection of social suspicion, gendered violence, and vulnerability. The intervention by a compassionate bystander brings relief, but also highlights the precariousness of safety for marginalized individuals. Her confusion about why she was targeted underscores the randomness and danger that can permeate everyday life. The attack may not have been a robbery, but an assertion of power through intimidation and violence. The plan to report these crimes to authorities reveals a hope for justice and protection, even when fear and suspicion cloud the path ahead. Throughout, the baby Zoe offers a poignant symbol of innocence and continuity amid chaos. The playful, tender moments with the child, for example, sitting calmly while selling guava, contrast with the adult conflicts. The baby represents potential and hope for the future, even as the present is marked by uncertainty and hardship. This juxtaposition evokes the resilience required to nurture new life in challenging conditions, making the small joys of parenting scenes all the more powerful. The underlying social commentary is multifaceted. There are reflections on gender roles, as the burden of childcare and household work falls heavily on specific individuals, revealing inequalities and fatigue. The narrative also touches on the rural economy, harvesting, selling fruit, and relying on small-scale commerce, which is vulnerable to environmental factors and requires constant vigilance for safety and quality. Administrative diligence, checking licenses and compliance, signals the broader framework of law and order that interacts with everyday survival. The story reveals the sometimes conflicting impulses within community life: cooperation and suspicion, care and judgment, support and exclusion. It suggests that rural communities can harbor profound solidarity, but also deep divisions, especially when resources are scarce and lives are closely intertwined. The pressure cooker of economic stress and social expectation shapes behaviors, sometimes leading to conflict, other times to acts of kindness and protection. At a psychological level, the characters' exhaustion, anger, and fears reflect universal human responses to stress and uncertainty. The narrative does not romanticize rural life, but presents it with raw complexity. The tension between public appearance and private realities emerges vividly, underscoring the strain involved in maintaining social harmony. In sum, part 2 of the story is a rich tapestry of human experience, highlighting resilience, vulnerability, social dynamics, and the interplay of love and conflict. It invites reflection on how communities function as both protectors and challengers of individual well-being, and on how people navigate the demands of family, society, and self in a challenging world. The days unfold quietly around Tieu Nu and baby Zoe. The guava harvest swells the family's modest income, an essential thread in their delicate fabric of survival. The fruit's aroma lingers in the air, a fragrant reminder of nature's generosity and the labor invested in every small earning. The market, vibrant yet exacting, demands vigilance. The vendors' commitments to food safety reveal a community striving to uphold dignity amid scarcity. Guavas sold with inspection stamps attest to a system that, though imperfect, seeks order. Within this ordered commerce, little dramas play out. The weighing of guavas, the bargaining over prices, the smiles exchanged with customers. Zoe's laughter rings out, innocent and pure. She is unaware of the tensions shadowing adult lives, but brings light wherever she goes. The joy in her eyes contrasts with the wary glances cast among adults burdened by hardships. Her mother's watchful care and gentle encouragement carve niches of warmth amid the cold struggles. The household, rife with strain, echoes with unspoken fears and frayed tempers. Old grievances resurface like stubborn roots beneath the soil. Fatigue seeps deeper into bones after repeated days of toil. Invisible lines of duty and disappointment intersect and fray. Resentments simmer quietly, exploding in sharp words or bitter silences. The complexity of caregiving, household management, and community obligations presses heavily on hearts already weary from loss and uncertainty. Tu Cam's absence from the neighborly gaze sharpens the emotional undercurrents. Questions about her ability to provide for Zoe haunt the margins of conversation. Neighbors' discreet inquiries transform into anxieties that swell with each unanswered call. The intertwined nature of rural life makes her isolation cruelly visible and painful. The child's vulnerability magnifies adult fears of neglect and abandonment. Social judgment weighs heavy in this close-knit world, threatening to fragment fragile supports. Reconciling love with survival becomes a daily, delicate balancing act. Family conflicts reveal deeper struggles of communication and mutual understanding. Violence, though unsettling, exposes layers of pent-up frustration, unhealed wounds, and fears of displacement in shifting social currents. Chairs lifted in anger, accusations flung in desperation, and the shadow of infidelity shaped by whispered rumors mark the limits of endurance. These fractures become metaphors for the broader challenges faced by families caught between tradition and change. The newcomer's presence as a catalyst for tension highlights the precarious place of outsiders. Her alleged seduction of a community member stirs conflicts rooted in fear, jealousy, and control. The community's reactions embody protective instincts intertwined with suspicion and exclusion. Plans to confront her, shadowed by secrecy and coercion, illustrate gendered power dynamics preserved and contested in rural settings. The threat she faces underscores the fragility of safety for those who disrupt or challenge established norms. Violence erupts when men chase the newcomer, seeking to intimidate or punish. The sudden intervention of a compassionate bystander illustrates moments of humanity amid harsh realities. This act of kindness and protection offers a fragile hope, signaling that even in fractured communities, empathy persists. The newcomer's confusion and fear after the attack capture a poignant vulnerability. Attempting to understand motivations behind such cruelty reveals the opaque social forces shaping lives. The decision to involve authorities in reporting violence signals a complex relationship between rural communities and formal justice systems. A hope for intervention exists despite mistrust and fear of retribution. This tension reflects broader societal dynamics where traditional social order coexists uneasily with modern governance. The bystander's pledge to assist signifies a commitment to collective responsibility and moral courage. Amidst turmoil, baby Zoe remains a symbol of innocence and continuity. Her playful spirit, simple needs, and dependence draw attention to the stakes of these adult conflicts. Her mother's protection and nurturing provide a thread of stability and hope amid chaos. The simplicity of her presence and the complexity surrounding her underscore the fragile beauty of life, persevering through hardship. The story's environmental backdrop paints a vivid picture of rural existence. Dense vegetation, laborious farming, and reliance on natural cycles remind that life here demands resilience in body and spirit. The landscape is both a source of livelihood and a setting for human drama. The interaction between people and land shapes not only economies, but identities and relationships. The necessity to harvest, sell, manage household and community obligations creates an intricate choreography of survival. Social hierarchies and gender roles subtly underscore many interactions. Women bear disproportionate burdens for caregiving and emotional labor. Men's roles fluctuate between providers, protectors, and sometimes oppressors. The newcomer's persecution and the domestic violence reflect societal power imbalances. These dynamics complicate the simple narrative of rural life, exposing inequalities and struggles for agency and respect. Economic precarity hangs over every action. The market's fluctuations, seasonal cycles, and reliance on small-scale commerce compress opportunities and intensify vulnerabilities. The need to comply with regulations and maintain relationships among vendors embodies struggles to sustain livelihoods in shifting socioeconomic conditions. Community members strive to make ends meet while navigating social expectations and legal requirements. The story's conflicts resolve neither neatly nor completely. Tensions persist like unresolved chords in a long and complex melody. The invitation to reflect on human frailty and strength remains open. The characters' lives continue beyond the frame, touching universal themes of survival, morality, resilience, and the search for dignity. The narrative illuminates the beauty and harshness of life woven together in rural Vietnamese villages. Ultimately, the conclusion is a meditation on persistence. Against odds and obstacles, life moves forward. The bonds between mother and child, between neighbors, between struggling individuals, form networks of care and conflict. These networks sustain hopes, create challenges, and shape identities. The story encourages empathy for those who navigate these difficult human landscapes with courage and tenderness. This ending provides a comprehensive understanding of the story's social, emotional, and cultural contexts. It honors the complexity of rural life, portraying characters as multidimensional beings shaped by environment, history, and relationships. The final reflection invites readers to appreciate the nuanced realities behind everyday actions and struggles, fostering deep compassion and insight. The landscape breathes quietly, vast green expanses interrupted only by the rustle of guava leaves and the slow trek of villagers carrying baskets heavy with fruit. The earth holds stories folded into its soil, stories of struggle, resilience, joy, and sorrow. Life cycles through seasons, planting, harvesting, selling, surviving. Each day begins with the sun's promise and ends wrapped in the soft folds of night, leaving moments to reflect on the hardships carried beneath sunburnt skin and calloused hands. Tu Cam's world spins between tender devotion to baby Zoe and the pragmatic realities of providing for her. The gentle coos of the child and the rhythmic cadence of her small footsteps fill moments otherwise dominated by work. The market scene repeats with a comforting familiarity. Guavas weighed on old scales, coins exchanged with polite smiles, neighbors greeting with cautious warmth. The community's insistence on rules and permits becomes a metaphor for the desire to belong, to order chaos, to claim dignity. The stamped fruits whisper tales of vigilance and trust, sustained in a fragile economy. The domestic sphere, however, reveals fissures beneath daily survival. Familial voices raised in frustration reveal the crushing weight of invisible labor. Arguments bloom out of exhaustion turned vocal. Expressions of care entangle with grievances too long suppressed. The repetition of chores, the unmet expectations, the unacknowledged fatigue paint an intimate portrait of love marred by strain. The silent language of tired eyes and sore muscles speaks volumes louder than any spoken word. Tu Cam's absence from public eyes sharpens tensions, leaving baby Zoe's future dangling in the delicate balance between hope and neglect. Rumors swirl as the community's gaze turns to the newcomer, an unwelcome ripple in calm waters. Her presence crystallizes fears and resentments, long simmering beneath polite conversations. Gossip trails her footsteps, binding narratives of jealousy and suspicion into a collective parable of outsiders and insiders. The decision to confront her in secrecy crystallizes the community's desperate need to restore order. It reveals assertions of power steeped in gendered norms and social control mechanisms. The newcomer becomes a mirror for communal anxieties over shifting relationships and threatened stability. Violence erupts with sharp and brutal intensity when the newcomer is chased through shadowed alleys by men seeking retribution. Her terror becomes a harsh reminder of the dangers embedded in social exclusion and suspicion. Rescue arrives unexpectedly in the form of a kind stranger, whose intervention marks a flicker of humanity amid cold complicity. Her offer of water, comfort, and protection unfolds as a gesture of fragile hope. The shock and confusion etched on the newcomer's face echo the vulnerability of those cast outside, caught in the turbulent eddies of social judgment. The choice to involve authorities introduces an uneasy alliance between tradition and law. The hope for justice wrestles with fears of retaliation and silence. It underscores the complex dance between rural communities and societal institutions. The bystander's promise to protect and assist shapes a tentative bridge of trust, fragile yet essential. The newcomer's experience encapsulates a harsh truth. Safety in such worlds is often conditional and threatened, dependent on the goodwill of others. Amid conflict and care, baby Zoe remains a poignant symbol of life's continuity. The innocence and simplicity of her presence ground the story in hope. Her laughter, curiosity, and need for nurturing become quiet acts of resistance against adversity. The mother's enduring love, though tested by circumstance, carves out spaces of peace that sustain life's fragile dreams. The child's growth mirrors the community's potentials and limits, illuminated in moments of play and quiet observation. The environment asserts itself as a character. Dense fields, shifting seasons, and the slow choreography of rural labor frame every human act. The land rewards and punishes with equal measure. It is the source of sustenance and the backdrop for conflict. Nature's cycles echo the cycles of human hopes and disappointments. The sweetness of guavas contrasts with the bitterness of hardships, creating a layered texture of life's unpredictable dualities. Social dynamics weave a complex web. Gender roles assign burdens unevenly. Women bear the weight of care, household duties, and communal work, often at the cost of personal well-being. Men's roles fluctuate between providers and oppressors, reflecting power imbalances and societal expectations. The newcomer's plight and domestic violence illuminate painful realities of gender and power in traditional societies. They expose the fragile line between protection and control, love and violence. Economic realities underpin every narrative strand. The precariousness of small-scale trade, dependency on harvest cycles, and vigilance to regulatory compliance frame daily choices. The need to survive economically crowds out space for reflection or leisure. Markets become arenas of negotiation, not only for goods but also for social standing and trust. The story's economic dimensions highlight broader issues of poverty, resilience, and community interdependence. The story refuses a neat resolution, embracing instead a space of ongoing tension and complexity. It resists closure, mirroring life's ongoing challenges and uncertainties. The narrative leaves room for reflection, inviting contemplation of the intricate balances between community and individuality, tradition and change, love and pain. The characters' lives ripple forward beyond the frame of the story, reminding that human endurance is both fragile and tenacious. At its core, the story sings of persistence. Through battles visible and invisible, life presses on. The bonds forged by family and community sustain even as they strain. The interplay of help and hurt, hope and despair defines their existence. The story's final moments echo with the quiet dignity of everyday survival, of love found and lost, of futures still unwritten. The narrative invites readers to witness not just a rural scene, but a human odyssey. People navigating forces beyond themselves, carving paths through hardship with grace and grit. It honors the unknown stories held by quiet villages and the lived realities behind fleeting glimpses. It calls for empathy, for understanding that beneath simple surfaces lie profound tales of courage and care. This final reflection embraces complexity and ambiguity, resisting the urge for easy answers. It fosters a deeper appreciation of rural Vietnamese life, rich in tradition, marked by change, tested by hardship, but filled with moments of unexpected beauty and resilience. The story is a tribute to those who live at the intersections of struggle and hope, who find meaning amid uncertainty, who keep the flame of life burning in the cool shade of guava trees.